Rachel Monroe lay on the narrow exam table staring at the white ceiling tiles as the ultrasound probe moved slowly across her lower abdomen. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the machine and the steady breathing she was trying to control. She had done this many times before with her husband Andrew, but something felt different today. Dr. Caleb Wright suddenly stopped moving the device. Rachel noticed it right away. He leaned closer to the screen, his eyebrows tightened, his mouth pressed into a thin line. For several long seconds he did not say a word. Rachel swallowed. "Is something wrong?" she asked. Dr. Wright cleared his throat but did not answer her immediately. Instead he adjusted the screen angle and looked again. Then he carefully set the probe down and turned toward her. "Who has been treating you before today?" he asked. Rachel felt a small knot form in her chest. "My husband," she said, "Dr. Andrew Monroe. He is a gynecologist too." The air in the room shifted. Dr. Wright went very still. For a moment he simply looked at her as if he were choosing his words. Then his voice came out low and controlled. "Rachel, I need you to listen to me very carefully. What I am seeing inside you should not be there." Her heart began to pound. "What do you mean?" she whispered. He stood up slowly as if any sudden movement might make things worse. "There is something in your uterus that does not belong there. It is not natural tissue. It is not a harmless growth. It looks like a foreign object that has been inside your body for a long time." Rachel felt cold all over. "A foreign object," she repeated. Dr. Wright nodded. "Ugh. And the fact that it is there raises very serious questions about how it got inside you and who put it there." In that moment, everything Rachel believed about her life and her marriage began to crack. Until that moment, Rachel Monroe had never questioned the man she had built her life around. Andrew Monroe was not just her husband. He was her doctor, her protector, and the voice she trusted more than anyone else when it came to her own body. They had been married for 15 years. Friends described them as solid and steady, the kind of couple that did not argue in public and always showed up together. Andrew was respected at his private women's health clinic in Phoenix. Patients praised his calm voice and careful hands. Rachel used to feel proud when people said she was lucky to be married to such a kind doctor. And for a long time she believed it too. Whenever Rachel felt pain, Andrew would smile gently and tell her it was nothing to worry about. He would say her body was simply changing with age. He would explain hormones and cycles in a way that made her feel foolish for even being concerned. "Trust me," he always said. "I know your body better than anyone." So she trusted him. She trusted him when the cramps grew sharper. She trusted him when her cycle became irregular. She trusted him when he told her that stress and work were the reason she felt exhausted and unwell. Rachel had wanted to become a mother, not immediately but someday. Andrew always agreed, just not yet. "First we build our life, first we get comfortable, there will be time later." And she believed him. Looking back now, Rachel realized how much power she had handed over without even noticing. She had given Andrew the keys to her home, her heart, and her health. When someone controls all three, you never think to look for danger. You think you are safe. Sitting on the exam table in Dr. Wright's office, that belief finally began to break. The man she loved and the man who treated her were the same person. And suddenly that felt terrifying. For 6 long months Rachel had been living inside a body that no longer felt like her own. The pain came in waves, sharp and sudden, like something was gripping her from the inside and refusing to let go. Some days she could barely stand straight. Other days she forced herself to keep going because Andrew said it was nothing serious. Her cycle had become unpredictable. Bleeding would start and stop without warning. Sometimes it lasted far too long. Sometimes it disappeared completely. Every change made her more uneasy, but every time she brought it up, Andrew had an answer ready. "It is normal for women your age," he would say. "Your hormones are shifting. Stress can do strange things to the body." He said it so calmly that Rachel began to doubt herself. She wondered if she was just being anxious or dramatic. Andrew had spent years in medical school and decades in practice. Who was she to question him? But a quiet voice inside her kept whispering that something was wrong. It was the way the pain felt different from anything she had known before. It was deeper, heavier, more constant. It was the way Andrew never ordered tests anymore, never suggested scans, never referred her to anyone else. When she asked if she should see another doctor, he would laugh softly and kiss her forehead. "Why would you need someone else when you have me?" he would say. That should have sounded loving. Instead, it made her feel trapped. One night, the pain was so bad that Rachel sat on the bathroom floor shaking. Andrew handed her medication and told her to relax. She did as he said, but fear settled into her chest. A body does not scream without a reason. And deep down, Rachel knew that whatever was happening inside her was not just age or stress. It was something else. Something hidden. Something no one was telling her the truth about. Rachel waited until Andrew left town for a medical conference before she made the call. Her hands shook as she booked the appointment with Dr. Caleb Wright. It felt wrong to go behind her husband's back, but the pain had pushed her past fear and into desperation. The clinic was on the other side of the city in a modern building with bright windows and clean white walls. No one there knew her. No one there had any reason to protect Andrew. That alone made her feel safer. Dr. Wright listened carefully as Rachel described her symptoms. He did not interrupt. He did not dismiss her. When she finished, he nodded slowly and suggested an ultrasound. The room was dim as the screen came to life. At first, Rachel did not understand what she was looking at. It was only when Dr. Wright went quiet that she felt the tension rising. He adjusted the probe. He changed the angle. He stared at the image longer than felt comfortable. Then he stopped. Rachel could see the shape on the screen even though she did not know what it meant. There was a dark, irregular form where there should have been none. "What is that?" she asked. Dr. Wright took a slow breath. "There is something inside your uterus that should not be there," he said. Rachel felt dizzy. "Izzy?" "I do not understand," she whispered. "It looks like a foreign object," he replied. "Something that has been embedded in your tissue for a long time." Rachel shook her head. "I have never had anything inserted. I am afraid of things like that. My husband knows that." Dr. Wright looked at her carefully. "Then we need to find out how it got there," he said. The silence that followed was thick and heavy. In that moment, Rachel realized this was no longer just about pain. It was about something done to her without her knowledge. Something that could not be explained away. Something that was going to change her life. Dr. Wright moved away from the screen and sat down across from Rachel. His expression was calm, but there was a weight behind his eyes that made her stomach twist. "I need to run blood work and more detailed scans," he said. "What I am seeing suggests that the tissue around this object is inflamed. That usually means it has been there for a long time and your body has been reacting to it." Rachel pressed her hands against her thighs to keep them from shaking. "Is it dangerous?" she asked. Dr. Wright hesitated just long enough to be honest. "It can be," he said. "Chronic inflammation inside the uterus can lead to serious complications. Infection, scarring, and in some cases changes that increase the risk of cancer." The word cancer landed like a blow. Rachel felt her breath catch. He printed out a referral form and slid it toward her. "You need to go to the county hospital today. They have the surgical team and the imaging equipment to remove this safely. I do not recommend waiting." Rachel stared at the paper. "Remove it," she whispered. "Yes," he replied. "Whatever this is, it does not belong in your body." She tried to hold on to something solid, but everything felt unreal. "How could something be inside me without me knowing?" she asked. Dr. Wright looked at her with quiet seriousness. "The only way a foreign device ends up inside someone is if another person put it there," he said. Rachel felt cold. "I also need to tell you something else," he continued. "Given the circumstances, I strongly advise you to speak with the police. Inserting a device into someone without their consent is a serious crime." "A crime?" The word echoed in her mind. She left the clinic in a daze, clutching the referral. Just that morning she had been a woman with unexplained pain. Now she was being told she was a victim of something far worse. In the parking lot, she sat in her car and stared at the steering wheel. Only one person had access to her body. Only one person had been there every time she was vulnerable. The thought was terrifying. But it was impossible to ignore. The county hospital admitted Rachel within hours. Everything moved quickly in a blur of forms, bright lights, and urgent voices. She barely had time to process what was happening before she was being wheeled into surgery. Dr. Leonard Hale was the surgeon assigned to her case. His voice was steady as he explained the procedure. They would remove the foreign object and clean the surrounding tissue. He warned her that the inflammation looked severe and that they would take samples for testing. Rachel nodded even though fear was twisting inside her. When she woke up, her throat was dry and her body felt heavy. The first face she saw was Dr. Hale standing beside her bed. "The procedure was successful," he said. "We removed the object." He held up a clear container. Inside it was a dark metal device shaped like a small twisted frame. It looked old and corroded. Rachel stared at it in disbelief. "That was inside me?" she asked. "Yes," Dr. Hale replied, "and it has been there for many years." "What is it?" she whispered. "It is an intrauterine device," he said, "but not a modern one. This is an old model that was banned more than a decade ago because of the risks associated with it." "Risks like what?" Rachel asked. Dr. Hale met her eyes. "This type of device is linked to chronic inflammation and an increased risk of cancer," he said. Rachel felt tears rise. "It also has a serial number," he added. "We will trace it to see where it came from." He explained that the surrounding tissues showed signs of damage. They had taken samples to test for abnormal cells. "We caught this just in time," he said, "but you will need close follow-up." Rachel turned her head away, feeling sick. For years something dangerous had been inside her. And someone had put it there. That same evening a woman in a dark suit stepped into Rachel's hospital room. Her badge caught the light as she introduced herself. "Detective Sophia Grant." She spoke calmly and respectfully, but her questions cut straight to the truth. "Who had access to you when you were unconscious?" she asked. Rachel did not need to think long. 8 years ago I had my appendix removed," she said. "My husband insisted it be done at his clinic. He said he would supervise everything himself." Detective Grant wrote it down. "Did anyone else treat you that day?" she asked. "I do not know," Rachel admitted. "Andrew handled everything." The detective nodded slowly. "That is important." A few hours later she returned with news. "The device we removed from you has been traced," she said. "Its serial number was logged as destroyed 8 years ago at your husband's clinic." Rachel closed her eyes. "So it came from him," she whispered. "Yes," Detective Grant said, "and the records show he personally signed off on its disposal." Rachel felt a strange mix of grief and relief. Grief because the truth was horrifying. Relief because she was no longer crazy for doubting. "Your tissue tests also came back," the detective added. "You have severe precancerous changes caused by long-term exposure to that device." Rachel's hands trembled. "If you had not gone to Dr. Wright when you did, you would likely have developed cancer within a year or two." The words settled heavily between them. Detective Grant looked at her gently. "We are opening a criminal case against your husband." And in that moment Rachel understood that her marriage was truly over. 3 days after her surgery, Rachel left the hospital and drove straight to Andrew's clinic. Detective Grant had given her permission to retrieve any personal items and look for documents related to her care. The building felt strangely quiet as she walked inside. In Andrew's office everything looked the same. The desk, the diplomas, the framed photos of their trips together. It was a perfect stage for a lie. As she searched, a young woman stepped into the doorway. She wore a nurse's uniform and held something small in her hand. Rachel recognized her. Emily Ross. The nurse looked startled to see her. "Dr. Monroe said you were still in the hospital," Emily said nervously. Rachel's eyes moved to what the nurse was holding. "A pregnancy test." Rachel's heart sank. "Is it his?" she asked softly. Emily froze. Then Rachel noticed the ring on her finger. It was nearly identical to her own wedding ring. "He promised he would leave you," Emily whispered. "He said you could not have children, and that your marriage was already over." Rachel felt the last illusion break. Emily had 2 children with Andrew, a boy named Noah and a little girl named Lily. He supported them, he visited them, he had built a second life. While Rachel was suffering, he was becoming a father. The cruelty of it took her breath away. The man who had taken her chance at motherhood had given it freely to someone else. Rachel left the clinic with her mind spinning and drove straight home. For the first time in years, she walked into Andrew's private office and sat down at his computer. She guessed the password easily. It was his mother's birthday. A folder on the desktop caught her eye. Forever Now. Inside were hundreds of photos, Andrew holding 2 small children, Emily smiling beside him, family trips, birthdays, holidays. But the worst part was the messages. Rachel opened one and felt her stomach drop. "Do not worry," Andrew had written. "I solved the problem with Rachel during her surgery. She will never have children and we can build our life together without complications." There were bank records too, monthly payments to Emily for their children, an apartment in her name, insurance policies. Andrew had planned everything. He had taken control of Rachel's body so he could live another life. Rachel copied the files to a flash drive. These were not just secrets. They were proof. And they would destroy him. Andrew came home that evening carrying flowers as if nothing had changed. He smiled when he saw Rachel sitting in his office. "There you are," he said. "I was worried about you." Rachel turned the computer screen toward him. Andrew's smile vanished. His messages to Emily filled the display. His confession stared back at him. "What is this?" he asked weakly. Rachel held up the clear container from the hospital. "This is what you put inside me," she said. "This is what has been destroying my body for 8 years. Andrew stepped forward, reaching for it. "Give me that." Rachel moved back. "You stole my right to choose," she said. "You stole my health so you could have children with another woman." Andrew opened his mouth to speak, but the front door burst open. Detective Grant walked in with 2 officers. "Andrew Monroe, you are under arrest for causing serious bodily harm and medical assault." Andrew's knees buckled. Emily rushed in behind them crying. She told the officers everything, how he lied, how he said Rachel was infertile, how he promised to leave. Andrew was led away in handcuffs. Rachel watched him go, feeling nothing but empty relief. The courtroom was packed when Andrew Monroe was brought in. Doctors, reporters, and curious strangers filled every seat. Rachel sat in the front row holding her hands together to keep them steady. One by one the truth came out. Dr. Caleb Wright explained what he had seen on the ultrasound. Dr. Leonard Hale described the band device removed from Rachel's body. Detective Sophia Grant presented the serial number records that traced it back to Andrew's clinic. Then Emily Ross took the stand. With tears in her eyes, she told the court how Andrew had lied to her. He said Rachel was born infertile. He said their marriage was already over. He said he had taken care of the problem. The messages were read aloud. Andrew's own words left no room for doubt. Rachel testified last. She spoke calmly about the pain, the fear, and the years of being told she was imagining things. "I trusted him with my body," she said. "He used that trust to destroy my future." The judge listened in silence. When the verdict was read, Andrew was found guilty of serious bodily harm and medical assault. His medical license was revoked forever. He was sentenced to prison and ordered to pay Rachel for the damage he had done. Justice had finally spoken. 1 year later, Rachel's life looked nothing like it once had. The fear that used to live in her chest had slowly been replaced by something quieter and stronger: peace. Her medical checkups showed that the damage in her body had stopped progressing. The dangerous changes caused by the device were under control. She would need monitoring for the rest of her life, but she was no longer living under a death sentence. Rachel had also made another choice. She adopted a little girl named Grace. The child had lost her parents and needed a safe place to grow. Rachel needed someone to love and protect. They healed each other. Every morning when Grace ran into her arms calling her mom, Rachel felt something inside her finally settle. She had lost the future she once imagined, but she had built a new one. One that was honest. One that was safe. One that no man controlled. Sometimes she still remembered the woman she used to be, the woman who trusted blindly. She did not hate her. She thanked her for surviving long enough to escape. And that was the greatest victory of all. If there is one thing Rachel wants every woman to hear, it is this: never ignore the voice inside you that says something is wrong. The most dangerous people are not strangers. They are the ones who wear kindness like a mask and use your trust against you. Rachel lost her marriage, her health, and the life she thought she was going to live, but she found something far more powerful: her truth, her freedom, and a future that belongs to her. If this story moved you, please like this video so more people can see it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments what city you are watching from and what time it is where you are right now. This is The Art of Revenge, where truth always finds its way back. Subscribe for more real-life stories, and never forget you deserve honesty, safety, and respect.